Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Championship Leadership Podcast. And we got Chris Ryan here, currently residing out of Dallas, Texas with GoBundance. So, Chris, thanks for being here.
Hey, Nate, as I mentioned to you before we started recording, I am really grateful to be on this call. I'm grateful for what you have done. I was super impressed with your website. And not only the programming that you deliver, but I spent a lot of time focusing on the about and your backstory. And I got to tell you, you have figured out self-mastery in so much as you know that there is strength in all of the challenges, obstacles, and issues that all of us have had. And the way that you dealt with it tells me you're an exceptionally high character human being, and I'm glad to be on this call.
Well, thank you so much for those nice words, and I'm excited to have you here. So thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So I know you've done some research, which is good. So maybe you already know this next question coming at you, but I like to ask all our guests, and we've had over 300 now, going strong over the last 4 years. So championship leadership is the name of the podcast. What comes to mind for you, or what does championship leadership mean to you when you hear that?
So in all of the work that I do with GoBundance and with other organizations that I work with, the word championship holds a special place. And here's why. There are a lot of leaders in this world, and there are a lot of people who are successful, and that's great. And there's nothing wrong with that. And you know, one of the easiest ways for this universe to keep score is in the ones and the zeros that sit in our bank account.
Yeah.
And especially for your younger audience, that is for sure a primary focus.
Right.
The title of your platform is Championship. And what it means to be a champion, in my mind, especially in the context of leadership, is that you've opened up the aperture well past the business and what I like to call the hedonic successes. Size your house, size your bank account, number of cars you have, all that stuff is great. But in the world that we live in, all of us are kings and queens, right? We live better than 99.99999% of the universe has ever lived in terms of mankind. So success from that definition is pretty much commonplace. What's not commonplace, and where I think championship really plays in, is in significance. And I think all of us are on a journey of significance that transcends just the almighty dollar. And in the context of GoBundance, we have what are called pillars that focus on relationships, that focus on health, that focuses on philanthropy, that focuses on legacy. And ultimately, I believe what is most important in our lives once we achieve a modicum of success. And so for you and for your audience, I think the challenge and the champion moniker shows up when you focus on truly what is more eulogy virtues than necessarily resume accomplishments.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Eulogy. I like it. I haven't heard it explained that way before. That's why I love asking that question, is because we always get some different interpretations of it. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and GoBundance and what it is and what you're up to, and maybe even, you know, kind of the journey and the path that you've taken to get to where you are today?
Yeah, it's like a lot of us, it's not a pretty story, right? So born in New York, grew up focusing on school, religion, and I was a tennis player. And lot of challenges in terms of conditional love in the household. Also had a high-performing alcoholic father. And so there was a lot of, if you did this, then you would be loved.
Yeah.
Fast forward to college, went to the University of Texas at Austin. And the biggest tipping point for arguably my life wasn't the academic education I got from UT, but rather the counseling that I got. Put myself through school, graduated in 4 years, came to Dallas, started my first business, went to grad school, didn't finish grad school, found that I really enjoyed being an entrepreneur, built and sold a bunch of tech companies, got out of that, did some work in the charity space. And then in 2012, sat down with a gentleman who wanted to know if I would be interested in taking over an organization called Tiger 21 that ran in Dallas, Texas. And because I didn't know what the hell I was talking about, my response to him was, "You want me to babysit a bunch of rich old guys?" Bill Case's response, I'll remember this the day I die, is he's like, "No, you asshole. I want you to change their lives." And so that I'm all about. And so with previous groups like Entrepreneurs Organization, YPO, Vistage, formerly Tech, the group I started called CEO NetWeavers had about 200 members in it. I started with a number of guys. I found that my true calling in life is to move the needle of significance in the lives of others. That's fulfillment, satiating, happiness, joy to me. Mm-hmm. And so what I'm doing with GoBundance in no small way is I am demanding a conversation with all of the GoBundance members. We have about 711 men, about 118 women. I'm demanding a conversation that says, now what? Okay, great. You've been very successful in your businesses. Perfect. Now what? Great. You have a wonderful wife or husband, children, whatever the case may be. Great. Now what? And the now what is focusing on what ultimately, as I mentioned earlier before, is more around the character, values, and the legacy of what we all want to create. Because we're not taking a dime with us when we leave this world.
Yeah.
And so the eulogy versus resume, that's not mine. It was borrowed from a gentleman I had the privilege of meeting named David Brooks. And he has a 5-minute and 2-second video on YouTube. It's a TED Talk that he gave, and it's called "Are You Living for Your Resume or Eulogy?" And it may be the best 5 minutes I've ever watched on YouTube, and would highly recommend, if that resonates with you and your audience, taking a watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what's it called again?
It's called "Are You Living for Your Resume or Eulogy?" by David Brooks. And it's a TED Talk. It's 5 minutes and 2 seconds. And I've probably watched that a few hundred times. And it still to this day puts me on the floor.
Yeah, we'll make sure that we'll link that up in the show notes for everybody so that they could easily access that and check that out for sure. I've always said that a championship leader is to be someone that you would want to be led by. And that's really been the reason for this podcast is to talk to championship leaders all over the world from all kinds of different backgrounds, experiences, industries, niches, professions. And so through these past 4 years of building out this podcast, I've had a number of companies that have reached out that want exposure for their product. And one recently that I've really grabbed a hold of is a company called Mastermind. And if you're watching this here on YouTube, you can see this is the bottle, and this is their page here. It's the world's first productivity drink. And when they first reached out and asked me to give this a try and to test it for myself individually before being willing to come and to speak to our audience here on the podcast as a recommendation, to first try it for myself. And so a little skeptical, definitely going in. Oftentimes I'll take different supplements and with a promise of a certain result, and have never really had the same experience. Right. So I've been trying this taking this for the last 7 days. A good friend of mine, Vinny Berry, has also been taking this for the past 7 days. And we've both had some incredible results and experience with it. What I really have liked about this and what I've noticed, and it takes some time, right, to build up. You don't take it the first day and get some instant results, although you do feel the effects on the first day. But really 4, 5, 6 days in, notice that, I've been much calmer. My energy has been high. Typically, as a business owner, an entrepreneur, just like you listening, we have a lot of responsibilities, a lot of stresses, a lot of pressure for ourselves to build a company, to continue to grow revenue, to take care of those that work for us. And a lot of times we'll do that. One way to stay alert and to keep our energy and focus up is to continue to drink coffee, to hit that favorite energy drink in the middle of the day, just as I had. And I still love my coffee. The great thing about this is you can continue to use your coffee, drink your coffee, and use this in conjunction with that. And so I'll have a cup of coffee in the morning, and then I take one of these. I just drink it straight. It tastes really good. It's got a nice open bottle. It's lightweight. It's plastic. It's recyclable. I travel a lot. I'm going to run 100 miles here soon in the next week. And I plan on bringing these out on the course with me to keep me alert, to continue to give me that energy without the hit, right? The coffee and the energy drinks give you the jitters and there's the constant crash, which means I go for the other cup or I go for the energy drink. And with this, one of the ingredients, key ingredients, there's many of them, but matcha, it's what gives you the energy. As you could see on the screen here, talks about the different ingredients inside of here, the nootropics, the adaptogens, honey, matcha, you name it. But I love it. I've subscribed myself and going to continue to take this on a daily basis. I felt more calm, more clear, more focused, and way more productive taking Magic Mind. And so I have a code for you to try this out yourself. You could subscribe and save up to 40% with my code CHAMP20. If you go to magicmind.co/championship, again, magicmind.co/championship, and then you go to order. If you subscribe, you'll save 40%, save 20% if you just want to do a one-time trial basis to see what the effects are for you. You could go ahead and just do that and get the 20% discount with CHAMP20. So again, the code is CHAMP20. We'll put all this in the show notes for you, but I highly recommend giving it a try. I've loved it. The experience has been great for me, and I'm going to continue to use it moving forward. So where did this drive for you to make such an impact and help others derive from?
It's a good question. Thanks, Nate. So in 1996, at the ripe old age of about 28, I had the privilege of hearing a guy named Bob Buford speak at a group called CEO NetWeavers that I started with a number of other folks. And I don't know if you've ever had this, but I felt like a compulsion, like a pull towards meeting this guy. And it took me almost a year. He wrote a book called Halftime, which is all about man's transition from success to significance. And he says that most men somewhere in their 40s or 50s move the dial in terms of where their focus is. You know, for a lot of us, the first half of our professional careers is about making money, getting married, having kids. I mean, the traditional right. path. But I think that pivot is something that's critical to all of us to living ultimately a life well lived. So I read the book, spent a year getting a hold of him, and then had a chance to sit down and visit with him. And my delivery was really straightforward. I told him I had nothing to offer him, didn't know what I could do to help him. He was, light years beyond me, but I was hungry to learn and literally become a disciple of his, which I did for 4 years until he had a stroke and couldn't speak anymore. And so I kind of picked up a lot of what I'm doing from that time and from that book.
Yeah.
And I find that all of us have achieved, as I mentioned earlier, this level of success. But, in the world that we all live in, how important is success when you compare it to the relationships that you have with your spouse or your kids or your grandkids? How important is all your success when, one of the things I really appreciate about your platform is the fact that physical health and physical well-being is a priority to you.
Yeah.
Right. And I saw on the store page, the different activities that you have and the things you can buy. There are a bunch of programs that you offer where, you're working your ass off and getting athletic. We just launched a Spartan program within GoBundance. We have an official Spartan team. Joe DeSena came and spoke at our Miami conference. Love that guy.
Yeah.
GoBundance is now the official mastermind group of the Spartan Race Organization. And Spartan Race is now the official adventure race organization of GoBundance. And so, all of us need to take care of ourselves, because this is the only body you got. It's the only body I got. And if we're not taking care of it, shame on us.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I just had that. It's really crazy. That's a common theme with my clients as we're talking, and a lot of them are doing really well. And a lot of times the physical piece is kind of the piece that's missing for whatever reason. Usually,
life, if I can respond to that, life shows up at a cost, right? There's always a cost on the road, and there are always trade-offs. So, congratulations to the guy who sells his company for $250 million that's literally been sitting on one side of a desk for the last 25 years. Yeah. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
But, just on a humor side, brother, if you're on wife number 7, it ain't her, right?
Right.
Right. If
Totally.
If you've been wolfing down, 4 Big Macs a day for the last 25 years, and your waist size is greater than your age, we got work to do.
Yeah.
Right. So
absolutely.
The key in life, and you get this, is the sooner you catch your awareness around what's truly most important to you. We build these great bank accounts and we make these great investments to protect ourselves and provide for ourselves later on in life. What health investments are you making in yourself? Not when you're sick and ill, but now. What relationship investments? What legacy investments are you making in yourself? And GoBundance is all about all of us, myself included, capturing and catching that snap as early as we possibly can. Yeah,
definitely. It's important for sure, 100%. Because if you wait till it's too late, then it's too late. So there's nothing you can do about it now. That's part of the problem, right? It's you never know you always think you got time until you don't. So
we're all immortal until we're not.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And may he rest in peace. But Steve Jobs, as a silly example, had more money than there are little green apples on this planet. And yet it didn't mean anything at the end of his days. And he passed at 56 years old. So unless we take care of our bodies now, unless we eat right, sleep right, exercise, figure out what supplements we need, whatever that platform and program is, unless we're doing that now, we will pay the piper later.
Yeah, definitely. Who are some who've been some championship leaders or coaches or mentors for you? I know you mentioned one potentially already, and Bob Buford, is that his name?
Yep.
But more than who, really, like. Yes. Who, if you'd love to share, but more so, what are some of the characteristics that really stood out from some of the people that have impacted you in your journey along the way?
So there are 3 things that kind of really stand out in terms of if there's a common thread among all of the mentors, coaches. I've gone through a ton of psychological counseling, even the counselors that I have. There are 3 things that stand out. The first one is that relationships really matter. And everyone who I'm close to, everyone who's close to me, not only do we care about each other, but there's some real depth to having a relationship-based mentality as opposed to a transaction-based mentality. There's whether you and I ever do business together, I'm pretty much committed off the conversation we had before and spending some time doing my homework on you. I'll do whatever I can to help you because you're a good guy. And what you do, you don't do for money or for fame or for ego or for notoriety. You do because I can tell just in the limited exposure I've had with you, you do this because this is what you want to do to help others. It's a selfish mindset with a skill set that allows you to do what you do with your programming, your events, your podcast, your platform. I'm kind of built from the same cloth in so much as, the different organizations that I serve. I do this because this is a passion of mine. It's not about a paycheck. It's not about an ego. It's about this is where I believe ultimately I can serve this universe best. And like Steve Jobs said, all of us want to make a dent in the universe. This is my dent. So relationships matter. The second thing is all of us want to have the best and the longest health span available. Right. So, I'm a fan of a guy by the name of David Sinclair. and my suspicion is that a lot of your viewers and members have read the book Lifespan. It's not enough just to eat well if we're not sleeping well.
Yeah.
It's not enough to exercise if our cortisol levels are off the roof because we're stressed out. You know, all of us have a responsibility to extending our own health span, and shame on us if we're not working on that daily, because I'll take an investment in my health span over an investment in my bank account each and every day, because who cares how much money is in our bank account when we pass? We're not taking a penny with us.
Right.
So, you know, and it's not just David Sinclair. It's Dr. George Shapiro. It's Dr. Bob Harari, the co-author with Tony Robbins and Peter Diamandis on the book Life Force. I'm going down to Costa Rica in a few months with Dr. Vince Giapapa, who is nominated for the Nobel Prize in Medicine for his work on anti-aging stem cells. And so, you know, a lot of this stuff is kind of cutting edge, sometimes bleeding edge, but there's some really good science behind it. Matter of fact, I'm working on getting Dave Asprey to come speak at one of our conferences. As you may know, he is the godfather. Matter of fact, he invented the term biohacking. Yeah. And he left the Bulletproof platform, and now he has an Upgrade Labs platform. And I think what he's doing as it relates to red light therapy, as it relates to cold plunges, all of that stuff is worth a looky look. Yeah.
You get a red light just in my corner right there. I don't know if you can see it on the bottom left there. Yeah, right behind me. Let's shift gears just a little bit and talk about what's the vision for you. I think championship leaders have an incredible vision. I'm a sports guy, so I always kind of like to use, you know, like Bill Belichick or Nick Saban, just these coaches at the pinnacle of their profession, their sport, that continue to compete against the best every year and continue to find a way to rise to the top. Right. And I think a lot of that is attributed to their vision. It's just a little bit different than everybody else's, and the courage they have to take action on that. So for you and what you're doing and what you're up to and GoBundance, like, you know, maybe even just short term, next 5-10 years, what kind of a vision do you have? And more importantly, like, you know, what's the impact you're looking to make out of that?
It's a really good question, Nate. Thank you. So as everyone in your audience knows, as a champion, your biggest competition is really yourself. Yeah. And specifically, you know, my biggest competitor is who I was yesterday. Right. And we're all on this growth path of trying to better ourselves each and every day. So in terms of myself, I'm 54 years old. As I mentioned to you, I run an organization called GoBundance. I also run a global family office with partners called R360. And I also serve a number of other groups, typically in the role of MC, master of ceremonies, or leader of congregations of folks. At the end of the day, my vision is pretty straightforward. I want to create my own significance by impacting those of others. So what does that look like? So I started my journey with GoBundance in July of 2020. We had about 240, 250 members. And it's a fantastic mastermind with some wonderful founders and some great, as I mentioned before, pillars in terms of values. Yeah. That message and the ability to impact the significance of the GoBundance men, which is called either the GoBundance Elite or the Champions Group or the GoBundance Women's Organization, that message is kind of universal in terms of moving the needle of significance. So what I want to do with GoBundance specifically is I want to double down on the value that we provide to the membership. I want to double down on the impact, not just to affect the GoBundance member, the male or the female, but I want to affect the spouses of the members. I want to affect the children of the members. And I want to create an environment where it's less about a member to member relationship, and it's more about a community, a tribe, or a family called GoBundance. And in doing that, what I'm finding is that the messaging of GoBundance resonates with almost a limitless audience of folks. And so, like I mentioned, the Spartan organization before, I couldn't tell you how excited I was to partner with Joe DeSena, the Spartan Race organization. And I visited with Joe, and Joe's like, I can't begin to tell you how excited I am to partner with GoBundance. I'm like, hold on a second. You're the celebrity, not me. But the reality is, like those Spartan guys, they're super athletic. They're super accomplished. They're great. But are they focusing on their relationships? Are they focusing on their legacy? Are they focusing on how they want to spend the second half or the last third of their life? Maybe, maybe not.
Right.
But I promise you, in the context of the world that we called GoBundance, we're going to not only talk about it, but one of the pillars is extreme accountability. We hold each other, and it feels a little bit like what I read on your platform. We hold each other extremely accountable to all of the different facets of our life. And that is what I call carefrontational, because it's great that you're making money, your relationship is fantastic, but you may be missing A, B, C, and D. And because I care about you, I'm calling you on it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Yeah. You know, a lot of us, it's great to surround yourself with people that, will tell you what you need to hear, not necessarily just what you want to hear. Right. So that's, I see that as being that, what do you call it?
Carefrontational.
Carefrontational. I love that term. That's awesome. I might have to use that one. So carefrontational. Absolutely.
If you think about it, right, one of the things that we all search for, not many of us find, is everybody wants their personal board of directors. Imagine if you had 6 to 8 men, women, makes no difference, around you, and their only agenda is, what can we do to have Nate show up the best he possibly can be? What can we do to help support him in his quest for self-actualization?
Yeah.
You know, if you can find those, and maybe they're best friends, maybe they're college guys, maybe they're work people, whatever it is, if you can put that kind of a group around you, then I believe we all have the chance of self-actualizing. And I think that truly is probably one of the greatest callings that each one of us have on this planet to do, because of the impact, not only for ourselves, but for the people that we love around us.
Yep. Yeah. 100%. What's I guess I call it kind of a critical moment. I know we all have many of these, but kind of that fork in the road moment. I think a lot of people are going through these times right now, and it's always, there's strength in hearing others and how they made decisions and chose in those moments, to help them to move forward and choose for themselves. So, what's a moment where you did choose what you did, which has you where you are today, but that maybe you could share with the group that, had you chosen differently, would find yourself somewhere completely different in life?
So there are a few, right? And in an interest in being fully authentic to you and to your audience, I'll share the one that's probably the most painful.
Sure.
So graduated from high school in 1985, came down to the University of Texas at Austin, expecting to play on the UT tennis team, which at that point in time was one of the top 3 tennis teams: California, Florida, Texas.
Okay.
Long story short, didn't make it on the tennis team, and had to put myself through college, which, as you can imagine, for a 17-year-old at that point in time, was a pretty daunting task. Yeah. No money, no friends. For all intents and purposes, Texas was a completely foreign state. What the hell, right? And so I started my first company teaching tennis, because I was good at that, and was going through what was then about a 30 or 40 line item invoice for the University of Texas student fees, right? And you may have had this in your education. But in addition to paying the classes and tuition, there was a bunch of stuff that showed up on this deal. And I noticed that the student counseling services, the fee was 0.00. It's free.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I'm not sure what student counseling services is, but it's free. I'm going to find out. And it just so happened that the student counseling services building was adjacent to the brand new Apple store that was on campus. And of course, I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. I don't have a dime to my name. So I could window shop and see the new Apple, Macintosh, and these things look archaic today.
Right.
Long story short, I rolled into the student services building asked what the counseling services were. Woman asked me to fill out a form, and they said, what were the issues? And, low self-esteem, feelings of abandonment, strong feelings of rage, strong desire to fight people. And the list just kept going on. And I remember the form, they had like spaces for like 4 or 5. What are your main issues?
Yeah.
And then I couldn't stop writing. So I went down the side of the page, and I probably listed 15 things. Hand the form back to the woman. She's probably a grad student, so she's probably 22, 23 years old. But at 17 years old or 18 when I was, she might as well have been 35, right?
Yeah.
And she looks at me, and she's like, I'll be right back. She goes away, comes back, and she brings like 7 people with her. Long and short of it is I got an academic education from college, but more importantly, I was able to get some pretty serious counseling for almost 3 full years. Usually it was twice a week. And that actually released me from a lot of the issues and challenges that I think would absolutely have put me down a very negative path. And candidly, with the work that I did there, I use a lot of that stuff in the work that I do today.
Man, that's very interesting because, the typical 18-year-old is not going to go seek out counseling, especially on their own, even if it's free. Like I didn't have the thought to go and do that. And I guarantee you it would have been helpful and useful for me to take advantage of that when I was at a 4-year university. So that's very interesting that you went that path.
Yeah, just a lot of rage, a lot of anger, a lot of concern that I could easily become the alcoholic that my dad was, because as you well know, half of what we learn as kids comes from the osmosis of the environment that we're in. Mm-hmm. And to be perfectly honest with you, probably the biggest thing is I really didn't like myself when I was that age. And it took me a few years to kind of discover that I wasn't the asshole that I thought I was.
Yeah.
And it was liberating, right? Yeah. Because once you like yourself, you can do things. Yeah. Right. And you can be likable to others.
Yeah. I think that's phenomenal. I love that. So what, as we start to wrap this up, if there's 1 or 2 things that you could kind of leave the listeners with that, if they were to implement today would help move their life forward today, what might those be?
So good question. Think about the biggest levers in your life right now, regardless of where you are. I would suggest to you the first lever, as I mentioned earlier, is relationships. Think about the people who are around you. Are they helping you? Are they nurturing you? Are they supporting you? Are they excited for your accomplishments and your success? Those are the people all of us want to surround ourselves with.
Yeah. Second
thing, and I think this is almost redundant to the audience that I saw on your website and the conversations that we've had. Health is the ultimate currency, because for anybody who doesn't put health as the priority, just wait. You will.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So that's key. And then the third thing that I did get a chance to mention earlier is, as I talked about, success is great. And all of us are focused on that for sure. Significance is more important, especially as you get older and especially as you have family, children. I think it's super important that we focus on the journey that we have for our significance, because with a modicum of success and achievement, and I saw that in the story that you shared about yourself and your own journey and the trials and tribulations that you went through, if we can find significance in our lives, then we can immediately turn around and act as a beacon to help others find significance in theirs.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. What are some ways that we can, the listeners can see what you're up to, follow you, GoBundance, everything else that you're up to?
So GoBundance is the tribe of millionaires that really focuses on growing our significance in all aspects of our life. The website is www.gobundance, GOBUNDANCE.com. I strongly recommend, if this podcast resonates with you, taking a look at our organization. We have some qualifiers in terms of net wealth, but more important than that, we screen based on character and values. You got a 30-minute sense of who I am in the context of this call right now. And I am no different than all 840, 850 of the men and the women in this organization. I just serve as the mouthpiece in the context of the time that I have with you. You know, another thing that we're really big on, I mentioned this to you before the call, is we're a huge believer in the leadership and value qualities of veterans. So we have what we call a micro tribe, which is a group of veterans from all services, from Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Merchant Marine, Coast Guard, you name it. If you've served and if this message resonates with you, we'd love to talk to you, and we'd love ultimately to find a way to really double down and grow our community of outstanding leaders, outstanding husbands, fathers, sons on the men's side, similar for the ladies. And what we're looking to do is really help create as big an impact as we can across this growing tribe, this growing community, this growing family.
Yeah.
So www.gobundance.com. My email address is chris.ryan@gobundance.com. If anyone wants to reach me directly, we're here to serve, and we're here to do whatever we can to help those folks, whether or not they're even in GoBundance or not.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Chris. And it's really been an incredible conversation. It's been fun to get to know you a little bit and connect, and we'll get all that stuff, of course, linked up for everybody. But appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Outstanding. It's been a pleasure. And let me end as I started, with gratitude. I'm grateful for your time. I'm grateful for the time of your listeners. And hopefully something that you and I shared can make a difference in the lives of not just your listeners, but their families and their communities.